Can I have everyone's attention?
Oh, no, scary.
Everyone divert your attention to Big Gill.
Massive. Are you actually? Okay.
Yes, I'm
Some
actually.
things in the English language don't make sense. Why is a building already built? Why is a drawing already drawn? Why do we park in a driveway and drive in a parkway? Why can you disrupt a class, but you can't rupt a class? The English language is weird. Many things don't make sense, and many words don't have clear definitions. For example, the sun doesn't really rise every morning. We rotate around the sun, and it's not actually coming up every morning. So the definition's a little blurry. And another word with a pretty blurry definition is the word soup. So first, let's take a look into some definitions of soup, and that way we could really understand what a soup is. So according to Merriam-Webster, soup is a liquid food, especially with meat, fish, or vegetable stock as a base, and often containing pieces of solid food. And then the Oxford definition is a liquid dish typically made by boiling meat, fish, or vegetables, etc., in stock or water. So if we break down these definitions, you notice how all of them say often, especially, etc., and typically. They don't commit to a definition. They leave room for error and improvement because there's no specific definition for a soup. They leave room for language to change, and it's supposed to be vague. And we can't follow it verbatim because it doesn't have a clear definition. It's not supposed to fit into a box. So, in the Webster Dictionary, the only thing that it explicitly states is that soup is a liquid dish. And while I know that soup is not limited to just a liquid dish, that is the only quality that Webster provides for it. Then it moves on to say how it often has added ingredients and stock, but it doesn't say that it needs to have them. And so I'll come back to the meat part later too, but cereal does have stock. In the dish cereal, not just cereal straight out of the box, milk is the stock. When milk is added to a bowl of cereal, the sugar starts dissolving. And you can see this when the milk turns different colors and when the cereal starts getting soggy. So this creates stock. It's a milk-based stock. Another soup that is milk-based is chowder. And chowder is undeniably a soup. And so cereal stock is milk. Now, the Oxford definition is fundamentally the same as the Webster definition, with one key difference. It says typically made by boiling. And it does say the word typically, as I mentioned before, but this is unconditionally wrong, because temperature doesn't matter to determine whether a dish is a soup or not. Gazpacho and chili are common examples of cold soups that we are all used to. And there's even more types of these soups in other countries. For example, in Korea, mulnamyeon is a Korean beef soup with floating ice in it. Soup can be hot, but it can also be cold. You cannot distinguish a soup based on the temperature. And so, as you can see, dictionaries don't want to get involved in this debate, so they give an ambiguous definition on purpose. So that leaves us to figure out what the definition really is. And there are a few different places where the word soup has evolved from. The word soup came from the German word Sop, which meant to make a liquid. And this word came from the Latin word supa, which in the 6th century meant bread in broth. Just bread soaked in broth. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Yes.
So if the earliest form of modern soup was simply bread soaked in broth, then what's the difference between that and cereal? It was clearly a soup back then. Because because it laid the foundation for what soup is. And even though that was a long time ago, it hasn't changed. If we look at examples from around the world, we can see similar types of soup. Italy has a dish called soupa di latte, which translates to milk soup. And it's made of just milk and bread. Poland has a dish called zupa mleczna, which also translates to milk soup.
You can't get.
Yeah. And that word has evolved to just mean cereal. So Poland has always considered cereal to be a soup, and even before modern cereal was introduced into the country. India also has kheer, and Germany has other types of soup based on sour milk. So around the world, there are many types of soup based on bread and milk. And cereal is the exact same thing. Bread is made from grain, water, and yeast, and cereal is made from grain, water, and sweeteners. Cereal is essentially unrisen sweet bread. So when you put them in milk, they're basically the same. They're both soups. Now, if I've still not convinced you that cereal is a soup, then you probably also think the earth is flat. But you just don't want to believe in science. But let's get into one last hypothetical, because I've not talked about the aspect of meat yet. Even though both dictionaries don't specifically say that soup needs meat, and other countries, and the US, have soups without meat, if you want to go out on a limb and say that soup needs meat, then what if we take chicken, we pulverize it, mix it in flour, and you create cereal-like chicken nuggets. Then you pour milk in it, and what would that be? Is that a cereal or a soup? Because that's still cereal.
Literally
It's
dog.
still cereal, but how is that not a soup? It's made the exact same way as cereal with added meat in it, but also chicken and milk. That seems like a soup to me. So after all of this filtering and defining, we've come to a conclusion that the undeniable definition of a soup is a liquid dish with pieces of solid food and enough fluidity that it's not a sauce. And in the end, cereal may not be your archetypal soup. If it was on a menu under soup of the day, most people would be a little upset. But it still fits the definition of a soup. It's still a soup, even if it's not a soup. It's a reduplication. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a soup. So even if it goes against your intuition, and even if on the surface it seems illogical, and even if you're scared to admit it, we've all come to the conclusion that cereal is a soup.
Amen. Amen. Let's see this greeting. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.